Welcome to the Palais Omnisport Paris-Bercy, the 18th Bercy Indoor Supercross. The Union Jack flying for Warren Edwards and the Red Bull Yamaha. But we're really here to see who is going to take the crown of King of Bercy. David Belmont from France, the local hero, or the visiting American legend, Jeremy Mcgrath. Can it really be 18 years? Well, it was actually 1984, the spring of 84, when we first came here to Paris-Bercy. Lulu Bernardelli, the self-same compere who introduced the show there, is the man doing the job right here. I'm Jack Bernicle. I was here in 1984, and I'm delighted to be back here in the year 2000. We await the introduction of the riders. This is the second night that we're bringing you from Paris-Bercy. So I'd better tell you that the first night turned into an epic triple victory, a double victory, I beg your pardon, for David Belmont. David Belmont, riding number 2, was the man who won both the 250cc finals. And as the heroes are introduced to the crowd here, I can tell you that the man who won the 125 show was the young American Justin Buckaloo, riding Yamaha. He won 2 of the 3 125cc finals for the contest, of course, for Prince of Bercy. Frenchman Eric Sorby on a Suzuki winning the second one after the 2 leaders, Stephen Boniface on a Honda and Rodrigue Tang on a KTM. The last year's Prince of Bercy had crashed. But the biggest crashes, incidentally, as we await the start of the first of 3 125cc legs. Travis Pastrana, of the Suzuki rider, and the reigning American outdoor 125 champ is out with a leg injury. Stefan Roncada injured his shoulder on Friday night, so isn't racing Saturday. Ryan Hughes, who had a huge crash in the US Open at Las Vegas, he's out of hospital now, but he's got serious liver damage and a big cut to his finger, so he's out of action. We're not going to see him during the course of this evening. Incidentally, the other injury, and a man who is not taking part in any of the 125 races here, the 125cc world champion Grant Langston, he actually crashed very, very hard in the tunnel. Remember, they go galloping out through the tunnel here at very, very high speed, up to 50-60 miles per hour. He hit the wall, he's broken his sternum, and he's suffered concussion, but we've heard that he's actually not too bad. Grant Langston should only be a couple of days in hospital, but a really terrible come down for the 125cc world champion and KTM. So who can be the winner here? Steve Ramon, the Belgian rider, one of the hot favourites as we go into the first 125cc leg. 10 laps. Head down, boys. Remember the guy who won. Oh, aim for that 5-second lady. She gets smartly out of the way, and straight away it's Justin Buckaloo, number 4, into the lead, followed by fellow American number 3, Greg Snell. Number 14, Joaquim Rodriguez is in there as well, the Portuguese rider who showed so strongly in that first round of the Stade de France, the first round of the World Championship last weekend, I beg your pardon, which we brought you here on Eurosport. Oh, and down goes number 6, Stefan de Marti, the runner-up in the French 125cc Supercross series this year, as they burst back into the arena. And at the moment, Buckaloo is the man in the lead. But number 2, Rodrigue Tang, riding KTM in the States, of course, the Frenchman who was Prince of Bercy here in Paris, is fighting to get himself in the top half dozen. Number 8, Stephen Boniface. Buckaloo leads Snell, Rodriguez, Rodrigue Tang. Justin Buckaloo, they reckoned that he was the fastest guy in the States this year, but suffered constantly from arm pump, and that obviously damaged his prospects in the end. Yamaha of Troy, teammate of the stricken Stefan Roncada, the man who just lost out on the American outdoor 125cc national championship, of course, by 2 points to Travis Pastrana at the last round. What a way to go. Joaquim Rodriguez, riding number 14 on a 125, of course, showed very, very strongly in it on a 250 last weekend at the Stade de France. Steve Boniface, number 8, Boniface, of course, exporting himself to the Honda Factory Connection team in the States next year to ride 125 Supercross and Outdoor Nationals. Steve Boniface just 18 years old. And here they are disappearing up and through that hair-raising tunnel, and this way there's the bit where Grant Langston unfortunately chose to crash. Number 20 is Brett Metcalfe. Number 20 on a KTM, Brett Metcalfe, just 16 years old. He's an Australian who has come over at the last minute, really, because Xavier Oudouard, the man who has always organised this epic at Paris-Bercy, received a phone call from Jeff Leask, one-time legendary Australian World Championship and American Championship contender, and Leaskey, who was the last Australian to win here in Bercy. He won a 250 final back in 1989 for Honda. He said, look, I've got this 16-year-old kid, Brett Metcalfe, take him for Bercy right now because he's good. And the battle going on at the moment between Steve Boniface, number 8, and Rodriguez, number 14, ahead of number 20, Brett Metcalfe. Oh, Steve Boniface centre punching, although not quite scaring, I would say, Joachim Rodriguez out through the gap. Number 2, Rodrigue Tang, keeping them good company, but not able to get past Brett Metcalfe. So the man who was Prince of Bercy last year before going off to the States, Rodrigue Tang, now finally gets across the finish line jump and past Brett Metcalfe. Oh, and down goes number 8, Steve Boniface, having worked so hard to get himself past Joachim Rodriguez. The tiny little Frenchman bails off, and of course he's one of those guys who's so short that if he does lose it through the whoops, he hasn't got long enough legs to do anything about it. So this, the first 125cc race, I was going to say final, but of course what they have here in Bercy is 3 straight 125cc races each evening. That's 9 races all told across the 3 nights. And at the end of those 3 nights, and this must be the man who's favourite to lift the title this year, you have the Prince of Bercy. That's Greg Snell pursuing the man in front of him, Justin Bukaloo. That's Rodrigue Tang. Number 7 coming into the reckoning is a Pascal Leroux, who finished 3rd just in front of Steve Boniface in the French 125c Supercross Championship this year. Rodriguez, really an impressive performer, impressive as he was in the Stade de France on the 250, showing up strongly. You could see how slick that earth is through that tunnel. That probably was the undoing of Grant Langston, who incidentally had set the fastest qualifying lap during practice on Friday before his accident on Friday night. That 16-year-old kid Brett Metcalfe, he does look good, doesn't he? Touch of the Jeff Leask about him. And up at the front, it looks as if the gap is closing a little bit between the leader and the man chasing him. That's Bukaloo and Snell. It's certainly closing between Joachim Rodriguez and Rodrigue Tang. Rodrigue Tang pressing hard. Brett Metcalfe has got the best view in the house of their duel. Ooh, and Rodrigue Tang trying to squeeze inside there, but then eventually there wasn't room, and it probably cost him time as he came bursting back into the stadium. Tremendous action from these boys. Pascal Leroux looking across to his right as he's in mid-air. 3 laps left as across the whoops go the 3 KTM boys. Oh, and that was Leroux losing his rhythm, and also Rodriguez doing the same, and both the KTMs pounce on him together. And Brett Metcalfe gets alongside Rodrigue Tang. So Tang, the 21-year-old Frenchman, suddenly finds himself with a lot of work to do. Rodrigue Tang, he'll be back in the States next year, but not racing for KTM, incidentally. He'll be racing for the AM Leonard Suzuki team alongside Danny Smith in Supercross and Outdoor 125cc Motocross Championships. Oh, and Brett Metcalfe cheekily glances across at the more experienced Frenchman in mid-air and looked like he was getting past him. Not quite. Come on, Brett, you can't spend as much time taking the mick as that. You've got to actually concentrate on making the pass. And this superb track designed and built by Jean-Luc Fouché, the man who originally set up the French Supercross National Series way back in 1987, 1988. Really a former rider who's a motivating factor and has been since the mid-80s in the success of French Supercross. Roderick Tang, of course, one of those, albeit a minor success story, because of course the major ones are Mr. David Villemang and Mr. Sébastien Tourtelli, not to mention the incredible Jean-Michel Bayle. Oh, and there goes Metcalfe. He dug the front end in, going across the whoops, and that's well and truly finished him, as number 15 Marc Ristori and number 9 Steve Ramon pick their way past the Swiss rider on a Honda, the Belgian rider on Kawasaki. And at the front, that number 4 of Yamaha of Troyes, Justin Bucalo, the man from Albuquerque, New Mexico, wins the race ahead of Greg Snell from Rancho Cucamonga in California on the Motor World of El Cajon Yamaha. So Yamaha 1-2, Yamaha of Troy beating Motor World of El Cajon, as the rest of the guys soar across the finishing line, and Steve Ramon finishing behind Marc Ristori, the altogether faster son of the extremely mediocre former Grand Prix racer Louis Ristori. Oh, and the boys are still at it, leathering through that last turn. That was number 17, Hervé Versace on a Husqvarna, a Frenchman who's already had several crashes here during the first night. Roderick Chang looking a trifle despondent because, of course, he was Prince of Bercy last year. And there is Justin Bucalo getting congratulated by the Dunlop man on that victory. Greg Snell finishing in second place. So an American 1-2 here stuns the Palais Omnisport into relative silence. Bucalo and Snell beating Roderick Chang. Pascal Leroux benefiting from the mess up in the whoops when Brett Metcalfe went down. He got past Joachim Rodriguez, Ristori in 6th place, Ramon 7th, and Eric Sorby, a winner on Friday, back in 8th place on Suzuki. Welcome back to Paris-Bercy and the first of the two 250cc finals here on Saturday night. The question is, can number 2 David Villemang once more rule the roost ahead of Jeremy Mcgrath? Mcgrath chased him down twice on Friday night but couldn't catch David Villemang, the man he beat, of course, in the US Supercross Series earlier this year. Sébastien Tourtelli, well, he didn't get the results that he wanted, beaten by both David Villemang and number 1 Jeremy Mcgrath. Although Tourtelli was making a great comeback after a terrible start, he'd qualified in the last chance after crashing in the whoops during his qualifying heat, and eventually almost caught Mcgrath in the race. Number 15 there was a Frederic Vial. Now Frederic No Race Vial, what a weekend he's had, because yesterday he turned 27 and today, Saturday, remember the action that we're bringing you, his son Tom was born. So quite a weekend for Frederic Vial, whatever happens in terms of actual results. And this is Michael Byrne. Now Michael Byrne, the Australian champion, is headed off to the States next year as part of, would you believe, Jeff Emmig's team. So Michael Byrne will be going over to the States to race Kawasaki for the Strategic 3 Jeff Emig team alongside Casey Johnson, Supercross and Motocross. Number 9, Damon Hoffman. Remember, World Supercross champion back in 1997 for Kawasaki, but now back with the team that he originally made his name with, and that is Suzuki. Mathieu Lados, young Frenchman who's made big inroads in his first season on 250s in the French Supercross Championship. 3rd place in the French 250cc Supercross Championship. And how's that for a classic Jean-Michel Bayle helmet? And how's that for a classic French beauty? I'm in love. Oh, and once again, David Villemang initially gets the whole shot. Mcgrath tries to respond and can't. And Mcgrath, who was victorious, remember, in Earl's Court in the UK a few weeks back, and then a couple of weeks ago got beaten in Sheffield after an early fall by Mike Brown, who's back there in the pack somewhere. Mike Brown, of course, returning to the States to race for Pro Circuit Kawasaki. But right now, the man in the lead, David Villemang, has got away at the front. And that's not what Jeremy Mcgrath wanted to see. Villemang incidentally beat Tortelli in the first heat tonight. Jeremy Mcgrath won the second heat from Mikhail Pichon, riding number 5, in third place right now. And Damon Hoffman came through in the repechage ahead of Mathieu Laloz and Jerome Emery and Mike Brown. But look at the pace of this boy, David Villemang. He takes a quick glance over his shoulder. Remember, he's a full-on factory Yamaha US rider. Mcgrath riding for Team Chaparral, but next year says he can pay himself more money if he runs his own team out of his own truck, and that's what he's going to do. But can he get near that long, lanky Cobra tonight? He certainly couldn't last night. So here they come stonking back into the stadium. The first semi-final was won by Villemang ahead of Tortelli and Mcgrath and Mikhail Pichon. And Pichon, incidentally, and down goes Mcgrath. Mcgrath slid off, spun it off, going out of the whoops, and that's really done in his chances of catching David Villemang surely in this 14-lap race. Wow, that's not what we expect from you, Jeremy. Number 3, Sebastian Tortelli, is beginning to press. He has shown tremendous speed here on Friday night. But Tortelli tends to make mistakes indoors. He made a huge one in the US Open of Motocross in Las Vegas, but fortunately survived it unscathed when he went down flat out in the whoops. And right now, he's beginning to close down on Mikhail Pichon. Remember the Suzuki star Mikhail Pichon, who lost the World 250 Motocross Championship to Frederic Bollet after he'd hurt his shoulder, had to pull out of the final in the Stade de France a week ago in the first World Supercross Championship round, when that shoulder injury just wasn't up to the job in hand in the end, but not before he'd shown Jeremy Mcgrath the way home in an extremely intense semi-final duel. Sebastian Dino Tortelli. Now a bit of information about Dino that's going to be certainly of interest to me is that Jean-Michel Bayle is here advising him in Bercy, and Bayle has been actually signed by US Honda to carry on doing the same thing for him. As we look at Michael Byrne, number 10, and number 23, Pierrick Paget, Frenchman, with Jeremy Mcgrath desperately trying to close down the two Hondas. Michael Byrne looking impressive. Remember, he's been signed up by Jeff Emmick to race the US Series next year. Look at Mcgrath, wasting no time, bulging his way past Pierrick Paget. So he's trying to get himself back in the hunt. Mcgrath on the charge. Is he a bit ring rusty? Is the legendary Showtime just a little bit ring rusty? He said he didn't enjoy doing the fast cross at Assago Seprio in September because that was his first proper race for a while. But he's certainly sharpening himself up now and looking a lot better here in Bercy. But David Villemang is way out in front right now. Sebastian Tortelli at the end of the whoops, and look at Mcgrath showing Byrne how to do it. Well, Michael, my boy, that's the way you're going to have to do it next year in your debut season in the States. Or would Mcgrath, who's now won a record-shattering 7 American titles and 70 individual finals in US Supercross, way ahead of anybody else. Surely someone's going to beat the 28-year-old someday. Mcgrath. Remember, one year he won 15 out of 16 finals in one season. It's about time someone got near him. I wonder if Michael Byrne could do it. Jeff Emmick's here in Bercy advising Michael Byrne and helping out his future team leader. Villemang leads, Pichon second, Tortelli third, Jeremy Mcgrath in fourth place. The question really is whether Mcgrath can even make it back on the podium, never mind catch the leader. It's a long time since Jeremy Mcgrath was king of Bercy, incidentally. We've got to look back, in fact, to 1995 and 1993. 1993, his first year on 250s, he took the title, and in 1995, again on Honda, he took the title again. But look at the loose and rangy Cobra, David Villemang. Look at the way he's performing. Oh, just laying the bars down in the dirt on the left-hander out in the tunnel. He looks fantastic. And surely, well, Jeremy Mcgrath credits the Cobra with being one smart rider. Surely the 23-year-old Frenchman's going to be the biggest threat indoors to Jeremy Mcgrath's title, Jeremy Mcgrath's hope of an 8th title in 2001. This, of course, is where this is the stadium in which Villemain made his name, winning the 125cc Prince of Bercy title on Yamaha for Yamaha France in 1996 and again in 1997. Actually, the king of Bercy back in 1996, that year on a Kawasaki, was Ryan Hughes. Rhino has actually forsaken the 250cc motocross Grand Prix scene and has signed for Honda America to race outdoors and Supercross next year. It's amazing, isn't it? I thought he was coming over here with a 5-year plan, but instead he's damaged his liver and his finger crashing in Las Vegas and signed up for Honda America. Well, Rhino, it's been nice knowing you for what we've seen of you in Europe, and all the best on your return to the States. Number 16, Marko Kovalainen, a Finn who's riding Yamaha, just being lapped there by David Villemain. And the next man, oh, look at the speed of the boy. The next man for the cut is going to be Vincent Turpin, also Yamaha mounted and French. So it's no good getting your gun out, Dick Turpin. He's not going to do you any good at all when this guy's around. David Villemain, what a performance. Villemain, remember, won 4 finals in the US Supercross Series in the year 2000. He won round 3 at San Diego, round 4 in Phoenix, Arizona, round 11 at Minneapolis, Minnesota, and round 14 in New Orleans. But of course it wasn't enough, because that man Mcgrath was winning quite a few more. And look at this, Mcgrath has hammered past Mikael Pichon. A bit of sweet revenge from last weekend at the Stade de France when they collided on the first lap of the final, and Mcgrath damaged his factory forks in that collision. And on the Friday night, the first night in Bercy, he had to ride with standard forks. Oh, the hardship. But one of his mechanics has flown over from America with a fresh set of factory forks, which Jeremy has on for the second night here in Bercy. He's desperately trying to catch up with that man Sebastian Tortelli, but Tortelli's speed through the whoops has been improving every afternoon. Well, the 2 afternoons, Friday and Saturday, he's had Jean-Michel Bale walking him around the track, showing him the lines during the lulls in practice. So Sebastian Tortelli with JMB, the greatest motorcycle racer of them all in all disciplines combined, that is going to be on hand, signed up by Honda America to advise number 3 Sebastian Tortelli next season. He was with Tortelli in Las Vegas, and he's with him here in Bercy. But Tortelli is losing ground rapidly to Jeremy Mcgrath. Look at Mcgrath coming so fast onto Dino. So it's Dino versus Showtime with 2 laps left. And Mcgrath is definitely closing that gap very, very quickly on the former 2-time world champion. Remember, the youngest world champion ever when he took that 1996 125cc title. Days short of his 18th birthday. Oh, Mcgrath really is pushing hard. Number 14, Mathieu Laloz had better get out of the way sharpish while these guys go steam hammering past. Laloz 3rd in the French 250 Supercross Championship. It's a whole different ball game when you're out here at Bercy. Damon Hoffman, number 9, has moved through into 6th place as the guys go into their last lap. Number 11, Thierry Bettis, newly crowned for the 2nd year running, in fact, as French 250cc Supercross champion, is about to get lapped. Has already been lapped by Byrne. Oh, look at this guy, what a style. Handlebars pointing to the heavens. He looks like your handlebars like a trials bike. And he waves to the crowd, of course. Packed house. There'll be over 40,000 people who have seen the event by the end of the 3 nights, because 14,000 of them can pack into this stadium. He takes the win. 2nd place, Sebastian Tortelli. And 3rd place for Jeremy Mcgrath. David Villemain, what a brilliant crash helmet, as the guys now take time out to pancake their way. There's Dustin Hoffman. just cruising across the finishing line. So that was the first 250cc final of the second night, and a clean sheet so far for this guy, David Willemang, and he's not needed any help as he did last year when Mcgrath, remember, broke down on the Friday night. Look at Mcgrath, he looked like he'd got a good hole shot, but the way Willemang just moved across on him almost in mid-air and just issued a warning shot across his bows, and that was enough to put off the 7 times champion. Oh! And that was number 8, Mike Brown, going down hard on the entrance to the whoops. I beg your pardon, on the first turn there, Mike Brown went down hard. The man who's the newly crowned 125cc British national motocross champion, of course. So Mike's race didn't last too long. Remember, he broke a finger at Bercy in training last weekend.
Course d'enfer et résultat d'enfer.
C'est vrai, je suis encore rechuté, je veux dire.
This is David Willemang not doing us the... We know that he speaks good English because he's been in America for a year. And Lulu Bernardelli speaks equally flamboyant English, but of course they're addressing their adoring audience in French. Mike Brown, incidentally, I should have said, last year was when Mike fell and broke his finger during training here at Bercy.
Je pense que je dois remercier le public, il a été d'enfer, et j'espère que je serai encore ici en deuxième manche.
Et il a dit, j'allais pas trop vite, hein.
David Willemang, defending World Supercross champion, of course, hopes to once more clinch that championship at Leipzig at the end of November, an event we'll be bringing you right here on Eurosport. He wins the 4th straight race, 2nd Tortelli, 3rd Mcgrath, 4th Michael Pichon, 5th Hoffman, 6th Michael Byrne, 7th Paget, and 8th another Australian doing well, Chad Reed. Welcome back to Paris-Bercy and La Cobra's fan club, but they've got to make do with the 3rd 125cc race. What happened to the 2nd one? Well, simple really. After 4 laps with Eric Sorby in the lead on Suzuki, Hervé Versace crashed his Husqvarna over the finishing line jump and suffered cranial injuries. And of course there was terrific concern about whether or not he'd be okay. The race was red flagged. The news is that Hervé Versace is okay. So, but that was cancelled. That race was actually red flagged after 4 laps and left. So this is the 3rd 125cc race coming to the start line. So Justin Buccaloo, number 4, of course, the winner of the first race, and this guy Roderick Tang, 3rd place on the rostrum, the man who was Prince of Bercy last year. Mark Ristori rode a good race into the top half dozen. Incidentally, other people missing from this 125cc lineup: Manuel Rivas, the young Spaniard, crashed during training on Friday and broke his wrist, and Edgar Torrenteras injured himself while finishing 2nd in the first race of the 125s on Friday and returned home. Perhaps he ought to stick to freestyle. That's what we really know him for, isn't it? E.T. Edgar Torrenteras. So he's missing from the lineup, as well as my favourite lady swings the 5-second board round, and we prepare for action. Watch for number 4, Buccaloo. Can he do it again? And it looks like he has. Whoops, a daisy. And what happened then? I think one of our cameras went for a Burton. Oh, it's mayhem in the crowd there in the battle for Prince of Bercy. And out they go into the tunnel. And Buccaloo it is in the lead. Ahead of number 5, Eric Sorby. And number 3, Greg Snell. Number 5, Eric Sorby, winner of a race on Friday night, but having a bad ride on the first night, on the first race here on Saturday night. Can Eric Sorby, now the newly crowned French Supercross champion in the 125 class, do anything to improve things? Number 20, Brett Metcalfe, unhurt in that spectacular get-off through the whoops when he was challenging number 2, Rodrigue Tang, is back there in front of the Frenchman once again, and in fact dives underneath Joachim Rodriguez. No, ends up on the outside of Joachim Rodriguez. How did they manage that? Swapped paint and then swapped sides, but he's got past. So the same bunch of guys are breaking away in this race. And once again, that 16-year-old Brett Metcalfe, nearly swapping it completely through the tunnel, and risking doing the same to himself as reigning world champion Grant Langston, aged a veteran 18, did in the first. Oh, and Joaquim Rodriguez went for the inside and blocked past Metcalfe. No messing there, but Metcalfe simply gasses it the wick again, glances over once again imperiously at Rodrigue Tang in midair and holds him off. This is a tremendous barnstorming. You see these guys have been deprived of some race time. Look at the way they're going at it now. Metcalfe gets shoved aside by Rodrigue Tang. Rodrigue Tang finished 5th in the AMA West Coast Supercross Championship in 2000, his best placing a 3rd at round 5 at Houston, the Astrodrome in Houston. Mind you, none of these guys did so well outdoors. Rodrigue Tang finished 12th in the outdoor 125 motocross championship, and Greg Snell was 13th, and Justin Buckaloo in the second Yamaha of Troy back in 16th place. Well, the story's a bit different indoors. Eric Sorby in 2nd place. Rodriguez, Greg Snell. Oh, just holding on inside Rodriguez. But he's got to watch number 2, Rodrigue Tang, who cuts inside the Portuguese star. But then finds himself not quite getting the drive. Oh, yes, he does, bravely round the outside into the tunnel. Number 3, Greg Snell, he was 3rd in the 125cc West Coast Supercross Championship. He had victories at round 3 in San Diego and round 7 in Dallas, Texas. Not enough to beat Shea Bentley and David Pingree. Rodrigue Tang 5th, Justin Buckaloo back in 9th place, but Buckaloo it is who seems to be just leading the way here. And headed for victory ahead of these warring factions behind him. Snell goes through in 2nd place. Tang is now 3rd. Rodriguez 4th. Brett Metcalfe still aboard in 5th place. Looking behind him. Glancing behind him to see who's going to bother him next. It's Pascal Leroux, the KTM pilot who was 3rd in the French 125 series this year. And although the French Supercross series is really not as healthy as it was a few years ago, and there are concerns about its future, it still is producing some cracking riders. There's one of them, Eric Sorby. Here's another one, number 2, Rodrigue Tang, number 7, just in the background, Pascal Leroux. And Justin Buckaloo, well, the guy is just really red hot, isn't he? Lapping in 45 seconds, just over 45 seconds. Yamaha of Troy star, who I should imagine with performances like this will be staying with Yamaha of Troy next year. And he is confirmed with Yamaha of Troy, joined by Nathan Ramsey. Ernesto Fonseca will be there, and Nick Way also joining Yamaha of Troy, while Stefan Roncada steps up onto a full factory ride with Kawasaki and the 250cc Supercross and Motocross class. Eric Sorby looking impressive in 2nd place and steady on Suzuki. Raced his first 250cc Grand Prix season this year. Oh, and that boy, Brett Metcalfe, he is hairy, isn't it? Jeff Leask, I hope you're watching this back in Australia to see how your protégé is doing. See if you can tidy up his act. No, actually, we like him this way. Leave him as he is. If you can't be wild at 16, when can you be wild? Look how little airtime number 3, Greg Snell, gets. He's really neat and trick, isn't he? Look, Sorby takes all the time in the world, but Greg Snell gets those back wheels down on the deck as fast as possible, gets the drive down from that Yamaha's back wheel. Rodrigue Tang beginning to challenge hard. Absolutely alongside Greg Snell as they head. Can he get round the outside this time? Oh, and he does. But can he hold his line? Oh, he does again. Oh, rip-snorting stuff. Rodrigue Tang, 21-year-old, showing that the experience he's gained from racing in the States this past year has held him in good stead. Number 8, Steve Boniface, already a victim of an accident, staying out of the way of these two, and he has every right to. Oh, neat stuff. Where did Tang produce that from? But he still hasn't managed to hold off Greg Snell. Snell benefiting from that merciless pass he pulled just before the start and finish jump. Roderick Tang losing his rhythm across the whoops, and once you do that it costs you a lot of time, because here comes Brett Metcalfe to give him a hard time right now. And Metcalfe leaps past the Frenchman. Impressive stuff indeed. Glances over his left shoulder. So that from that one harsh pass that Greg Snell attempted to pull on Roderick Tang, and Tang's exorbitant attempt at getting out of it eventually cost him all that time. Justin Buccaleu is on his last lap. The man who suffered from arm pump throughout the season in the States, certainly not suffering from it round Paris-Bercy. I should think he'd be happy to come back here. He has an almost effortless Jeremy Mcgrath look about him, doesn't he? Centred neatly on the bike, quite short on the bike, doesn't move around on it too much. Looks good. So Justin Buccaleu is about to emerge into the stadium for the last time, to be greeted by a relative wall of deafening silence, because he's an American leading in France. 6.5 seconds now clear of the French 125 Supercross champ, Eric Sorby. Sorby second, third place for Greg Snell, fourth place for Brett Metcalfe, edging out number 2. Roderick Tang. Joachim Rodriguez is next, Pascal Lurie next, and showing just how good the KTMs are, even with the injured Grant Langston out. Look at the way the KTMs are packing the results. So that was the 125cc second race. The third race rather, the second one was red flagged after 4 laps and null and void. So it means that Justin Buccaleu has won overall tonight with 2 points ahead of Greg Snell with 5 points from second and third. Roderick Tang third place on 8 points with a third and a fifth, and fourth place for Eric Sorby. Well done that man, Justin Buccaleu. Paris-Bercy wouldn't be the Supercross of Paris-Bercy without a freestyle competition, and although he doesn't look like he can manage too well at turning a corner, this is what Emmanuel True can do when he's out there. Winner of the Vans Big Air Festival, and the man in white is Xavier Fabre, something of an old hand at this game, and his dress getting more and more extreme every time we see him. Well, this is not a competition here at and that, I think, was Emmanuel True. Jeremy Lambang was the first guy that we saw. Emmanuel True, who was the man who... Here is Lambang on the Golden Moto. Showing some impressive style. Look at the state of that motorcycle. Is that gross or what? Emmanuel True will be the next up after we've seen Xavier Fabre. And Emmanuel True, he won the freestyle competition at the Las Vegas US Open. Incidentally, Travis Pastrana was hoping to be here to have a jump off with Stefan Roncada, because Roncada claims he can do the best knack, and Pastrana doesn't believe him, so he wanted to have a race off at Bercy, but Roncada's hurt his shoulder and Pastrana's absent with a knee injury, so that test will have to wait till another day. So here we have a quick selection of what Messrs Xavier Fabre, Emmanuel True, Manu True to his friends, and Jeremy Lamblang came up with at Bercy. That's the Heart Attack, originated of course by Carrie Hart. And then we have the second final of the 250s. 250s dominated so far by David Villemain. Mcgrath, Tortoli, Pichon, Bettis, Vial, Michael Byrne. Chad Reed having some good rides. Chad Reed, of course, has been signed up by that great spotter of talent, Jan de Groot, the 7-foot-high Dutch beanpole who runs the Kawasaki factory squad. He has signed up Chad Reed, a surprise signing for the year 2001 in the 250cc Grand Prix. This is Michael Pichon. Now, Mickey Pichon, he also became a dad. Last Monday, Zachary was born. So the boys, Frederic Vial and Michael Pichon, have been having a good week in the really important part of life. This is Damon Hoffman, still a baby face. Damon Hoffman, even though he's now just coming up to 25 years old, and he's been around a long time. Came up through the Team Green program at 18-year-old. He was on a full factory Suzuki. Lots of potential. Everybody thought he was going to be a winner from about 1994 onwards. But the man from Canyon Country, Saugus, California, very quiet, technical rider, has never quite fulfilled that promise. As my favourite lady breathlessly holds up the 15-second board, and when she swings that round to 5 seconds, all the fidgeting will stop, and these guys will be focused on getaway. Will that man, David Belmont, second in from the right-hand side, whole shot once more on bike number 2, and it looks like he has as Mcgrath gets squeezed out. Mcgrath bursts through as much quickly as he can, past Frederick Vial, and it was Frederick Vial, inspired by the birth this very day of his son Tom, who almost made the whole shot, but he's in third place at the moment, the Frenchman, ahead of Sebastian Tortelli, ahead of Mickaël Pichon, ahead of Damon Hoffman, ahead of the rest. And we'll tell Michael Byrne's made a good start. Jeremy Mcgrath in there. But Mcgrath has got all the work to do once more to try and catch up with Villeman. Oh, look at the guys nailing it across these serious whoops. Now Tortelli, with the advice of Jean-Michel Bayle, has just been getting quicker and quicker as the weekend has gone on. The question is just how quick can he eventually get? Tortelli coming hard after Mcgrath. Mickaël Pichon trying to hang on. Number 6, Chad Reed on the Kawasaki, looking impressive. Oh, as Mickaël Pichon goes for the inside line and blocks 27-year-old Fred Vial. So Michael Byrne chasing his compatriot Chad Reed, number 6 and 10. The two Aussies are together as they crash their way across the whoops. I don't mean literally, I mean you have to hit them hard if you're going to last the distance. Oh, great line, that tight one through there that Mickaël Pichon's got. He always has been red hot on the tight lines, that guy. Pichon just knocks it down a gear in mid-air over that little double flick before he hits the tight left-hander. The two Aussies raging over 5th and 6th places or thereabouts. Tortelli, who of course has always been such a stupendous outdoor motocrosser, but look at his speed across the whoops. Oh, tremendous. But he just overcooks it on the exit and loses all the time he's gained on Mcgrath right there. Now he's got it all to do again, and he's got Pichon for company. Pichon launches across the double and gets inside him into the tunnel. Well, would you believe it? Tortelli looking so fast, he probably almost overtook himself across the whoops and was surprised to find himself in that tight hairpin bend so quickly. So now Dino's got to do it again. Oh, and I don't think he's going to waste any time. But notice the difference between Pichon and Tortelli. Tortelli is just a little bit too much of a gentleman, and he just backed off, block passing the Suzuki just then. Perhaps centre punching might be a more accurate way of putting it. Oh, Tortelli once again, if he gets the corner right this time. And that's what he's got to do, just that. This time he did get it right, and there's no coming back for Pichon on this occasion. Vial and Chad Reed 5th and 6th, 7th for Michael Byrne. Sebastian Tortelli, runner-up of course in the 250cc outdoor nationals in the States this year, and 6th in a disappointing 6th. He only got onto the rostrum on one occasion, despite his consistency indoors in the stadiums. Round 7 at Pontiac, finished in 2nd place, beaten by Jeremy Mcgrath. But judging by the effect, oops, just not quite there, as he mistimes it right at the end of the whoop, but judging by the effect that J.M. Bayle is having on his riding, could it be that Tortelli, who remember was the protege of Jackie Vimont for so many years, until his split with the Oxbow Clothing Company when he went to No Fear as he went to the States, so they instantly cut his contact with Vimont, who was actually employed by Oxbow to look after him. He's had no one to really take care of him since then. Well, Jean-Michel Bailey is going to be that man. But the man that he's trying to catch is Jeremy Mcgrath. Mcgrath in second, third, number 3. But the man ahead of them, and once again Tortelli lightning until he reaches the end of the whoops and then just loses his momentum across there. Meanwhile, Chad Reed, obviously a pretty shrewd choice once more by that man Jan de Groot, that great spotter of talent, is beginning to close on Mikhail Pichon. It's a wonderful noise as they go through the tunnel and then burst into this arena in front of this expectant crowd. Mcgrath glancing somewhat disbelievingly across to his right and finding that he simply can't get anywhere near the man he's chasing. Now, Jerome Emery, number 26, is the man who's going to be lapped shortly by Jeremy Mcgrath, but Mcgrath is beginning to get pulled in once again by Tortelli, who, until he made that fairly drastic error in that tight left-hander, he's not properly got sorted out yet at the end of the whoops, was actually closing Mcgrath down earlier in the race. It's down to 2.8 seconds again, the gap. Remember, 14 laps this 250 final. It's a test of stamina and concentration. And Dino, the crowd are hanging over that fence there in the stalls. It's a great viewing point, that, because you're about 15 feet up above the floor of the stadium. Wonderful position to view from. And here he goes. Watch, with 5 laps to go. Look at the speed that Tortelli's coming across those whoops until he gets to the end ones. And then somehow it's not quite there. He needs to get better yet. Mcgrath doesn't want to lose that second place. Remember, Tortelli beat him in the first race in the 3rd place. And of course, what he'd like to do is be on the rostrum at the end of the night, at least. Pichon, of course, has had a 4th place and a 3rd. Beg your pardon, a 4th place in the first race, behind Mcgrath. Here comes Tortelli. Oh, he just takes something out of himself when he goes across there, but he's fit, he's committed. And he's putting the pressure on the 7-time US Supercross champ. Could we see a new Sebastian Tortelli, a real challenger for the first time? Remember that when he was, a couple of years ago, when he first arrived in the States to ride some early season Supercrosses, he actually won Los Angeles, the opening round, didn't he? At the Olympic Stadium. Oh, he is closing so fast. He's got number 16 to shove out of the way, Marco Kovalainen. He does that. Now, he gets the speed off the banking. Look at the pace of him across the first part of the whoops, and then just has to slow up and double right at the end. And that airborne line, oh, what a great triple at the end. Oh, and Mcgrath's gone down in the tunnel. Mcgrath, feeling the pressure from Tortelli, goes down in the tunnel. It's a difficult one for Jeremy to pick up, and showtime. I think he might lose another place yet. The yellow flag's still out. He's not yet restarted. Here comes Mikhail Pichon. Pichon's well, the birth of his son, and then passing a fallen Jeremy Mcgrath. And I think Mcgrath's hurt himself a bit there. Mcgrath definitely hurt his left hand as he went down. Wow, David Belmont now has a huge lead as he passes number 14 Matthew Laloz, who's actually in 11th place. And the leggy Cobra, the Snake, is with... Oh, and number 10 Michael Byrne has hurt himself. He's out of the action. Michael Byrne, number 10, looks like he's almost cruising there. Oh, class action. You can almost see it better from upstairs, can't you, from that camera angle. David Belmont, with the glitteriest helmet this side of Jeremy Lambang's bike. And the rest of them are lappers, the only people in sight. Number 23, Pierrick Paget. Number 14, Matthew Laloz is 10th, Paget's 11th. Michael Byrne back in 12th place behind them. Has at least recovered his composure a bit, holding on to that 12th place. But behind Willemang, Sebastian Tortelli, Mikhail Pichon and Jeremy Mcgrath, 3 mounting in 4th place ahead of Chad Reed. But it means that that's not good enough to get Mcgrath on the podium tonight, because that 4th and 3rd against the third and fourth of Mcgrath, that tiebreaker would go Pichon's way, and he will be the man who climbs onto the rostrum with Villemang and Tortoli as we go into the last lap. So as Lulu Bernadelli goes absolutely apoplectic, David Villemang on the US factory Yamaha leads into the tunnel for the last time, heading for a conclusive 4 out of 4 wins, punches the air with glee, and would you believe he went on to do the same the following night on Sunday. That was yesterday, our time, and as he crosses the finishing line, David Villemang celebrates 4 out of 4. He eventually makes that 6 out of 6, despite the efforts of Sebastian Tortoli, who led the first race on Sunday for a long time before eventually getting passed by Villemang. Mickaël Pichon, he takes 3rd place in this race and 3rd place overall on the night, and in fact 3rd in a French whitewash. Jeremy Mcgrath, he had wrenched his thumb when he crashed in the tunnel as he leads Chad Reed across the finishing line in this race, and Damon Hoffman riding number 9. Mcgrath had wrenched his thumb and he pulled out after a defeat in his heat on the 3rd night, and didn't compete in the 2 finals. So that meant that the king of Bercy was David Villemang, and Jeremy Mcgrath ended up back in 12th place. Oof, look at that. It's not the sort of obstacle you want on the entrance to the tunnel, is it? So David Villemang eventually became king of Bercy. Sebastian Tortoli in 2nd place. Villemang for the 2nd year in succession king of Bercy, just as he was once Prince of Bercy 2 years in a row in 96 and 97. Tortoli number 3 was 2nd in the king of Bercy contest. Mickaël Pichon 3rd. And Jeremy Mcgrath, well, and look at that. That's when he hurt that left hand, and that's what put him out. Mcgrath, showtime, out of the 3rd night. Villemang, look at that, what a whip as he goes one-handed across the finish line. So for the 2nd time he becomes master of his craft here at Bercy. And that man Mickaël Pichon in 1993, he was the 125cc Prince of Bercy. So he finishes 3rd in the King of Bercy competition. That's number 5, Mickaël Pichon riding the Alstara Corona Grand Prix Team Suzuki. But look at them, look at the movement and elegance. He somehow does manage to be elegant on the bike, almost in spite of his style. Villemang then, he's the winner overall on Saturday night here at Paris-Bercy, ahead of Tortoli and Pichon. And that is the finishing order in the King of Bercy competition at the end of the whole weekend. Only Jeremy Mcgrath isn't in 4th place, he's back down in 12th. And 4th went to Damon Hoffman, 5th to Michael Byrne, 6th Chad Reed, 7th Mathieu Laloz, and 8th Jerry Bettis. But David Villemang, is he going to be the man to beat? He wants to hang on to that World Supercross Championship. We've lost the 2nd round in Italy on November the 4th, but we will be back with the final round, and on the last 2 days, virtually the last 2 days of November, also the US Open of Motocross from Las Vegas. But from Paris-Bercy, congratulations to David Villemang, Sebastian Tortoli and Mickaël Pichon. They make it a French 1-2-3 to remember here in the Paris-Bercy Stadium, the Palais Omnisport, the 18th Paris-Bercy